Good morning. Thank you, Chairman Stile and Ranking Member Morrell, for having me today. I appreciate this opportunity to talk about the critical importance of protecting political speech in U.S. elections. I want to focus my comments today on the necessary and primarily nonpartisan modernization changes outlined in Section 3 of the ACE Act, and the importance of updating federal campaign finance laws to put them in line with our modern era. Although campaign finance policy is the subject of intense debate and public interest, current federal campaign finance laws are woefully outdated. Significant changes have occurred in campaign finance policy, in technology, and in the political landscape since the last time Congress passed a substantial amendment to the Campaign Finance Law over 20 years ago with the Bipartisan Campaign Reform Act, or BICRA. Since 2002, Congress has only made really minor changes to federal statutes. Although the Federal Election Commission has attempted to fill this gap with regulations, many provisions of the Federal Election Campaign Act of 1971, or FECA, need modernization to keep the law in line with current political realities. First, most campaign finance reports filed with the Federal Election Commission, or the FEC, are required to be done electronically for anyone who's raising or spending over $50,000. However, electioneering communication reports are not currently required to be filed electronically. This doesn't make a lot of sense in our modern era. Reports that are filed electronically are available much sooner to voters, and it's a lot easier for staff to process them. Second, the lack of legislation focused specifically on online campaign activity has led to much uncertainty in the regulated community about how to report communications made over the internet and what type of disclaimers are required for internet political ads. This issue has not just affected campaigns and political committees. Private citizens expressing their opinion over the internet can unknowingly run afoul of federal campaign finance laws by expressing their political views online. As a result, it's been left to the FEC to attempt to modernize these rules through the regulatory process. Although somewhat helpful, this regulation did not address several important issues. The ACE Act addresses most of these issues. The bill codifies the FEC's 2006 internet rulemaking by exempting unpaid internet communications from the definition of a contribution and expenditure, even when they're coordinated with a candidate. Furthermore, the ACE Act expands the media exemption to include electronic and internet-based news companies, clearing up confusion over which companies were eligible for the exemption. Under this act, a news organization that's not owned or controlled by a party, a political committee, or a candidate should qualify for the media exemption. These technical amendments to the FECA are needed to modernize the law for the current era. Third, the proposed bill updates the law to align with inflation. Under FECA, certain contribution limits are indexed for inflation every 2 years based on the change in the cost of living. However, not all of them are, and FECA does not tie the qualifying threshold for political committee qualifications. So rapid inflation in the past decades resulted in an extremely low qualification threshold for filing reports with the FEC. For example, under current law, an entity will become a political committee after spending only $1,000 to support a candidate. And this isn't indexed for inflation, so every year it gets worse. The proposed bill addresses these outdated limits by increasing them and tying the qualification thresholds to inflation, avoiding the need for Congress to address this again in 20 years. This would help avoid chilling grassroots political speech by setting too low of a trigger to qualify as a committee or to file FEC reports. Finally, Section 3 of the ACE Act includes several additional significant nonpartisan changes. It implements the FEC legislative recommendations to make permanent the extension of administrative fines for qualified disclosure requirement violations, which for years has just been extended temporarily. It raises the annual rate of pay for staff and adjusts it for inflation in the same manner as other positions in the executive schedule, allowing the FEC to attract and retain qualified employees. It also clears up the rules regarding what happens if a candidate dies and no one's at the helm of the campaign. It codifies recent Supreme Court decisions, simplifies joint fundraising, and sunsets the unused presidential public funding program. Current federal campaign finance laws need to be updated and require modernization to keep up with the changing political and technological landscape of our day. The modernizing sections of the ACE Act are a critical update to federal election law to address these important issues.